Every day, we tell the story.
The story of our great biological heritage. Aquí hay otras, una aquí, la otra allá, y ahí va a entrar así, ¿no?
The story of beauty, the natural world, the wonderful biodiversity we share our planet with.
Tonight, you're going to hear our stories.
And how you can make a difference.
This is our chance.
This is the Indianapolis Prize.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2014 Indianapolis Prize Gala. I'm John Sayre at the JW Marriott Hotel in downtown Indianapolis, and tonight we will honor Patricia Wright, the winner of the 2014 Indianapolis Prize. We will also celebrate some of the most driven, dedicated, and successful conservationists in the world. We'll tell the stories in this program of 6 people, all with different passions, but with one common goal. They have spent their lives studying nature, learning everything they can about animals and environments, figuring out the best way for all of us to live and thrive together. Now, some of tonight's honorees have literally saved animals from extinction, discovered new species, changed laws, and changed habits. They've also changed minds, preserved land, and put all of their energy into sharing what they have learned with the rest of us. They are teaching new generations of people how to preserve the natural world. And as you can see, more than 1,000 people are here at the JW Marriott tonight to support the efforts of these 6 individuals and countless others around the world who are living and giving for conservation. The prize was created by the Indianapolis Zoo more than a decade ago as part of its commitment to conservation. And tonight we will share the stories and the mission of the Indianapolis Prize with you. This is one of the most prestigious awards in animal conservation anywhere in the world. The winner will receive $250,000 and the Eli Lilly Medal. The event is really a who's who in the conservation world, and earlier tonight there was a VIP reception with lemurs present in the room for many of the people who have traveled from all corners of the world to be here tonight. One of them is Jane Alexander. This is someone that you probably know as a Tony and Emmy Award winner who has starred in films like The Great White Hope and All the President's Men. She is also a longtime wildlife advocate, well known in the conservation world, as well known as she is for her work on the stage and screen. But of course, the woman of the night tonight is Indianapolis Prize winner Patricia Wright, and she was at that reception as well. She says she is among her heroes in conservation, but it is she who they are here to honor tonight. Now, throughout the next hour, we're going to tell you more about the Indianapolis Prize, and you'll see the remarkable work being done all over the world by the world's leading conservationists. Work takes them to the farthest corners of the world, from places like Mexico to Madagascar. What they do there helps all of us in Indianapolis get a clear, distinct look at the needs of our planets, the animals that are endangered, and the lands that need preserved. It may sometimes seem like a world away, but tonight it is all right here in Indianapolis. For it to work, conservation can't be something that other people do. It's something in which we can all take an active role, and it begins with simple awareness. And it is bringing awareness that Indianapolis Prize winner Patricia Wright has dedicated her life to doing. When she found out in May that she was chosen as the winner of the Indianapolis Prize, she told me that it's one of the greatest honors of her storied career. She called the honor the Nobel Prize of Conservation. She also said she discovered her mission in life quite far away from a jungle. She found it in the urban jungle of New York City.
She is a fundraiser. She runs a campus. She runs a global conservationist organization. And I think she's also a politician. It will be hard to find all of these in one person, and she has it all.
Pat Wright is a person who lacks the gene for, hey, that's impossible. She just goes ahead.
She was born Patricia Chappell in Lindenville, New York in 1944. Graduating with a degree in biology from Hood College in 1966, Wright was newly married and living in New York City. To support her new family, she made ends meet as a social worker. But a serendipitous evening would change the course of her life.
One night we were going to hear Jimi Hendrix. Got there early, went across the street to the Fish and Sheep's pet store. And I fell in love. I fell in love with a monkey. And I named him Herbie, and that started my whole life.
Herbie awakened Wright's curiosity in the natural world and motivated her to focus her studies. But motherhood and another unexpected change would create unique challenges as graduate studies led to field work in remote countries.
My father left her when I was 4. Once she decided to pursue her career, it absolutely changed both of our lives.
At the time, it was really traumatic. What was she going to do, you know? To take your 3-year-old daughter to the field like that. Pat would be out following the animals, and Amanda would be left with the local people to look after her.
Going to graduate school itself was a challenge, but I was in New York, living with my child, Hell's Kitchen, 4th floor, no money at all. It was really tough, but I always would tell her, you know, Amanda, someday everything will be all right.
During a stint at the Duke Lemur Center, Wright found a calling in studying endangered species. She traveled to Madagascar in 1986 in search of the greater bamboo lemur, a species feared to be extinct.
One early morning, suddenly, I saw this amazing animal that came right toward me, and it was like a golden color, and it twirled its tail around and gave me this, like a motor going off, an incredible sound, and then it disappeared. And we thought at that time it was the greater bamboo lemur, but it wasn't. It was only later that we realized it was the golden bamboo lemur, a new species to science. A few weeks later, we found out that the greater bamboo lemur was in the same forest.
Armed with 2 exciting finds, Wright honed her focus on an area of pristine rainforest near the village of Ranamafana. She quickly realized she had a fight on her hands.
Loggers came and they started to cut down the forest. And I went to the Department of Water and Forest, and he said, you find the money and we'll help you protect the forest. And he ushered me out of his office. And that was the moment when I realized I had to become a conservationist.
She went from village to village and asked the people what they need. They said 2 things. We need schools and we need clinics.
And so that's when we started to think about health services and education and helping them with a better livelihood and a better lifestyle.
Wright raised enough money to establish the 100,000-acre Ranamafana National Park in 1991. In 2003, Pat began to build the Centre Balbio Research Center, a campus on the edge of the park, which serves as a research station for budding and established scientists.
This is our new little girl called Indy for Indianapolis. Conservation really starts here. It starts at the community level. We have to train the people. It's really a wonderful feeling to know that these people are growing up in a better way than they did in the past.
She's been very much involved in the villagers' life. She trained them, and many people are now involved in her project in the Balbio Center.
And you know, those same people that I saw at the very beginning, those same people we're still having meetings with, and we're talking about planning for the future for their children. There's a sense of hope. There's a sense of future.
Pat has changed the face of Madagascar and lemur conservation like no one else could.
This is more than she could have ever dreamed.
A bamboo lemur was here. That's amazing.
To see how this park has changed from really just being a few researchers to just having tourists by the truckload.
Look at that. There they are. Ooh, look at that jump.
You know if it's a greater golden bamboo lemur?
It's a greater bamboo lemur.
Because of this national park that my mother has created, I get to bring my kids here to see these lemurs. For me to know that the world sees her and recognizes her is just such an amazing accomplishment, because it does mean a lot to both of us. It's astounding to me. I'm really, really proud.
My sister has always been quite ingenious and quite a survivor and always a very loving person. Rather than seeing it ever as a struggle, she was really born and raised with this undying optimism that yes, we can do this, yes, the world can become a better place, and yes, we're all in this together.
As the winner of the 2014 Indianapolis Prize, Pat Wright has a very busy week ahead. She's going to stop at several Indiana colleges and universities and then head to an appearance at Harvard. Now, I did mention before the Indianapolis Prize includes $250,000 as a prize. That is an unrestricted gift for the winner to use as they see fit. Now, Pat Wright is the star of the show tonight, but she's also the star of the big screen already. In fact, a bit later in this special, we're going to take you on an adventure in Madagascar to see the IMAX movie that chronicles Pat's trailblazing work with one of the world's most endangered species. Morgan Freeman narrates the movie Madagascar, the Island of Lemurs. Now, when we talk about the greatest conservationists in the world, the talk quickly turns to 2012 Indianapolis Prize recipient, Dr. Stephen Anstrup. He is the head of Polar Bears International, and he joins us here tonight. Steve, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Let me ask you first of all about polar bears. What does the health of polar bears tell us about the health of our environment?
That's a really good question. Polar bears depend on sea ice to survive, and a warmer world holds less sea ice. But a warmer world also means a more erratic climate, more drought, more floods, more severe storms, a lot of the kinds of things that we've been experiencing already. And so I like to think of it as by trying to save polar bears, I'm saving the world one polar bear at a time.
Now, I know a lot of people, when they think about conservationists, they think of voices of doom. But you're actually a pretty optimistic guy.
Absolutely. My work has shown conclusively that we have time to do the things that we need to do to save polar bears, and in so doing will benefit everybody, including ourselves.
Now, your bio says that you retired in 2010, but guys like you don't really retire, do they?
No, I can say it's not been the retirement that my wife expected. I left my research position and took a role with Polar Bears International, which is mainly an education and outreach organization. And with them, my role is to try and deliver the word about what we need to do in order to conserve polar bears and all the other species that we're interested in saving.
Now, let me ask you something about Pat Wright. She joins a very exclusive circle tonight as winner of the Indianapolis Prize. What about the work she's doing out there? How important is it?
Oh, man, I mean, not only has she discovered several new species, but she has contributed to the conservation of an area that's unique in the whole world. You know, the island of Madagascar is like nothing else anyplace else, and she has almost single-handedly played a role in saving major parts of it from development. So she's had a huge impact, and the fact, you know, she worked with the people to develop this new IMAX film, and getting the word out like that. I mean, people go to those movies, so she can reach a huge public by participating in a thing like that and leading that effort. So, you know, she is indeed a huge conservation leader, and I'm really happy to be here to help celebrate her award.
The winner of the 2012 Indianapolis Prize, Dr. Stephen Anstrup, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we're going to continue here, and as you're watching this special, we're going to show you more about the backgrounds of all the finalists and the inspiration that led them to the Indianapolis Prize Gala tonight. We're also going to be putting their profiles, the things that sparked their interest in the area of study, and more about the Indianapolis Prize for Conservation on our website, WTHR.com. They are extraordinary people, and they are doing extraordinary work in this world. Now, the MCs for tonight's gala are known for their work in sharing the story of people like Stephen Anstrup and Pat Wright. Frank Pope is an expert on oceans and ocean archaeology, and his wife is Saba Douglas Hamilton. She's an African wildlife conservationist. She has also appeared in several documentaries and wildlife programs. And earlier tonight, I talked with Frank Pope about the importance of nights like this. How important is the Indianapolis Prize?
Well, the Indianapolis Prize, to my knowledge, is the biggest value prize out there for conservationists. So it's $250,000 that goes to a kind of person that is used to living their whole life on a shoestring, and they get stuff done for very little money. And to get this kind of award, no strings attached, it can catalyze enormous change in a conservationist life, and it can free them up to be the kind of people who they are. And these people are not the kind of people who'll take a prize like this and go, oh, fantastic, and buy a nice new car or extend their home or whatever. These guys will take this money and put it straight in the field where it's needed most.
And what about your involvement? Why is it important for you to be involved in this?
I think anything that anyone can do to encourage a prize like this and something that catalyzes such change is something we should all leap to do. So I'm honored to be involved in the prize.
You're a journalist, but your background is in oceans and oceanography. How does the environment of the ocean fit in with the environment that we enjoy on the ground?
Well, my background in the ocean taught me a lot of things about the linkages between the land and the sea, and I think it's all too easy for us to forget when we're living on the land, especially living in a city, how interconnected we are. But we depend very much on a healthy ocean for our atmosphere and for our souls in a lot of ways. I think a lot of people seek out the sea, and we take for granted that the ocean is healthy. But if the ocean wasn't healthy, it very quickly gets toxic. So all these people that live on the coast, and everyone aspires to live on the coast, or at least go to the coast on holiday. You know, the ocean would be the seaside would be a very different place if it wasn't for a vibrant ecosystem in the sea.
And we will continue here with more inspiring stories about conservation in faraway lands and what it means to us here in the heartland of the United States as we continue our coverage of the 2014 Indianapolis Prize Gala, coming to you live from the JW Marriott Hotel in downtown Indianapolis. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the grand ballroom of the JW Marriott Hotel in downtown Indianapolis. 1,000 people gathered here tonight to honor the recipient of the 2014 Indianapolis Prize, Patricia Wright. But she is not the only person in this room doing great things in the world of conservation. In fact, we have with us tonight one of the top conservationists in Mexican history, Indianapolis Prize finalist Gerardo Ceballos. He'll be honored tonight for his vision to save animals like jaguars and prairie dogs in his native Mexico by helping to preserve the land on which they live.
He doesn't fear much about what can happen. He doesn't see the negative or the limitations of that idea. He just focuses on the positive thing. He's a visionary.
Gerardo is one of the most important conservationist scientists in the world. You are drawn to him and you're drawn to listening to him. He knows what he's talking about and you're gonna have a good time, you're gonna laugh a lot.
For over 20 years, Gerardo Ceballos has fought to preserve the vast and diverse ecosystems in Mexico. He began his career focusing on mammals. That work led to a discovery that caused him to broaden his conservation plan.
Gerardo's approach to conservation is really interesting. It's not focused on one species or just one problem. It's only using species as tools for conservation planning. So the idea at the end is to save as much biodiversity as possible.
Estos con perritos. Mexico is one of the 3 most biodiverse countries on Earth. We try to complement protected area systems. In that sense, we're saving thousands and thousands of species.
In 1991, Ceballos worked to create the first Endangered Species Act in Mexico, a landmark that protects over 4,000 species and 1.5% of the country's land mass. One area of Mexico that Ceballos and his core team have focused on is the Llanos Reserve, a grassland region to the north, where the ecological balance is tested by subsistence farmers, cattle ranching, and industrial farming practices.
One thing leads to another. You see that they are putting crops in the predator towns. How do you stop that? They are a very powerful group, the farmers.
Mexico is a unique country in many senses because you have tons of species and so much biodiversity, but then also you have all the cultural part. People live from the forest, so you have to tackle both issues.
En Sonora, yeah. What we have been doing is developing economic activities that are sustainable on the one hand, and on the other hand, that are compatible with conservation.
Keystone species are a crucial component to understanding what makes a particular ecosystem tick. In the mid-1990s, Ceballos began to study the jaguar, an elusive cat believed to be plentiful in the Yucatan Peninsula region of Mexico.
We didn't know anything about jaguars in Mexico, and they were becoming extinct. We organized the National Jaguar Census. We have been able to convince the government to tackle the main problems that are affecting the jaguars. This is a jaguar track.
It's one of the most successful projects in the world in jaguars in the world, and what we do here is just tracking jaguars in the forest. We can get the information about health, about genetics, and many other issues about how the jaguar population is actually improving.
We know a lot of the biology of the jaguar, the natural history of the jaguar, and now we know how many animals in all the reserves and inside or outside of the reserve.
In Mexico, he's highly regarded by the government, from ministers of the environment to governors. He has had a lot of influence. He has helped to create several reserves or expand other reserves. And that's a work that should last probably 100 years and will benefit thousands of people.
How do I keep optimistic in the face of so many challenges? It's hard to tell. The joy of working with wildlife gives me so much inspiration that I keep on going. It is something I think you are born with, To think that my work is helping plants and animals to survive, is helping the local people, and it's also giving a better chance for my children to be able to see this when they grow up. I mean, I feel at peace.
You know, even before the Indianapolis Zoo began awarding the Indianapolis Prize a decade ago, it was known as a champion in the conservation world for things like recycling and alternative energy at the zoo, to telling the story behind the zoo's animals. One of the newest and most entertaining examples of that is the Simon Scott International Orangutan Center. You can watch critically endangered animals interact with each other and with you at the habitat. There are 8 orangutans, from the playful Rocky to the wise old AZ. The International Orangutan Center is one example of the zoo's commitment to getting conservation, I should say, into the conservation, something that aids the process of conservation around the world. Now, when we talk about saving animals in the environments in which they live, you probably think of the standard things like whales, polar bears, maybe elephants. But some of the most important work being done in conservation is going on in places we've never heard of, with animals we've never heard of. Indianapolis Prize finalist Joel Berger is one of those people who goes to places that we don't know about, and he finds animals that we've probably never seen before.
We've got this major expedition on this island called Wrangel Island, 200 miles from Alaska. But to get there, I have to fly around the world, start out in Moscow, go 8 time zones east over here to Pevek. The highs are going to be about minus 25 Fahrenheit. The lows are only minus 30.
He's a wild man. He just loves being out in nature. He has an excitement about the natural world.
He carries pictures in his wallet of the different animals he's working on so he can show people when he talks about them.
Joel is very high energy. He doesn't think small. He thinks about big problems and how to go about addressing them, oftentimes using real innovative science.
We call it burgerology because you really have no idea what's going to come out of his mouth, and somehow he ties it all together beautifully.
Since the early 1970s, Dr. Joel Berger has put his words into action. Born in Los Angeles, Berger has focused on a diverse set of species in the U.S., Mongolia, the Arctic, and Namibia, where he and his young family found themselves in the early 1990s, researching a severe downturn in rhino populations.
2 hours and 10 minutes on the radio.
Sounds good.
Good luck! Goodbye!
Black rhinos were being slaughtered. By the late 1980s, there were maybe 3,500 left. In Namibia, we didn't have the financial resources for anti-poaching patrols. The Namibian government decided to cut off the horns, the idea being, what's a rhino without a horn? There should be no incentive to poach.
Because it's a lot easier for the rhino to run right into us.
The most important conclusion of his research was the dehorned rhinos were unable to protect their young from the local predators. The population can't increase because the reproductive success plummeted with these dehorned rhinos.
That led to a bit of a storm, and we were eventually kicked out of the country. And so we left under this veil, and it was very controversial. Oh, you always ruffle feathers, that's okay. Making people think, challenging people, making them consider how to do things differently.
Pushing people to think differently was certainly most challenging when Berger worked to save a migration corridor for pronghorn antelope in his own backyard. Portions of a 350-mile section of terrain in Wyoming's Grand Teton National Park were in danger of being developed for oil and gas exploration. Berger dubbed the area the Path of the Pronghorn, which is now the only protected corridor in the U.S.
If the migration corridor was severed, that animal would go extinct in the national park. In 2003, we kicked off a study. We collected over 11,000 data points through the pronghorn's eyes as they were moving through the landscape. And then conservation movements stemmed from that information.
If we can do it here, we should be able to do it elsewhere. And that's the cool thing about it. That's what's so cool about this.
Since 2007, Berger has traveled some of the most remote and treacherous sections of the Siberian Arctic to study a lesser-known animal that is one of the keys to understanding the effects of a changing climate, the musk ox.
Well, musk ox are very similar to polar bears in that they are kind of a flagship species for climate change.
They're the remnants that live in the Arctic. They live in these group-bonded societies, a bit like elephants. They form a herd and stand tight. And so whether we're asking questions about what led to such unusual behavior or how do we conserve them, it meant we needed to know more about them.
After nearly 40 years of research and field study, Berger shows no signs of slowing down. He continues to push the boundaries of what is possible, publishing his findings and always planning his next trip to a remote location.
And then you're going with the jacket over in the hood because it's pretty cold.
Well, here's a guy who's in his early 60s. You know, most people slow down a bit, but Joel has got so much energy. He's got so much drive.
All my friends think that he's really cool when they meet him. He's different than other dads. I'm proud of him.
It's inspiring to me to be in wild places, to see animals still roaming as they did 10 and 20,000 years ago. Maybe it's like that peak that people like to climb. They climb it because it's there. I like to do it because the animals are still there. I hope other people will want to do it because the animals are still there.
And keeping those animals there is the focus of many people here at the Marriott Hotel tonight. And we will continue our live coverage of the 2014 Indianapolis Prize Gala from the JW Marriott in the heart of our city after this short break. This IMAX movie is a documentary inspired by the work of Indianapolis Prize winner Pat Wright. Madagascar, the island of lemurs, shows us how Pat pours her heart and soul into her work. It's where she discovered a new species and is making continuous efforts to preserve the land where these animals live. And see this guy right here? This is what it's all about. This is a lemur. And we're going to learn more about this little guy in just a couple of minutes. These are the most endangered mammals in the world, and we can duplicate what we do with them for other species in other lands. Now, Jared Miller is a well-known lemur expert, and he's going to be joining us here in just a couple of minutes to tell us more about Mowgli. Right now, though, the gala is getting underway. Attendees will honor the 5 finalists and, of course, the Indianapolis Prize winner, Patricia Wright. We'll take a look in on the gala throughout the next half hour or so. You know, when I sat down with Pat Wright yesterday, she compared winning the Indianapolis Prize to winning the Nobel Prize of Conservation. Now, there is no such thing as the Nobel Prize for Conservation. That makes the Indianapolis Prize the top prize for conservationists, and that is what is putting her in the spotlight tonight. She also talked about what she wants to do with the $250,000 that she's going to be taking home. The first question, and the main question is, what does getting the Indianapolis Prize mean to you?
To me personally, it's a great honor. It's an amazing thing to be amongst those finalists to begin with, and then to be actually the one chosen. It's a great honor for me. But for the project and for Madagascar, it really opens up an important window into public awareness that they didn't have before. And they are very, very excited that I won the prize. And when I get back to Madagascar at the end of October, they're having the World Lemur Week, they're calling it. And then I'm going to have another gala in Madagascar. So I'm very excited, and they're very excited for me and for us.
Now, the prize comes with a lot of money, $250,000, unrestricted. What are you going to do with the money?
Wow, I know. I've been thinking about it. I think one of the things that I'd like to do is to bring electricity to some of the villages. We've been trying to do that for a long time. These are villages who, you know, many of the people just can't, the kids can't even study at night. When you don't have electricity, you don't have lights, you don't have radio, you don't have, so you can't even plug in your cell phone to charge it. So we're going to work on that. I think I've been talking to the electric company, and as soon as I get back there with a little bit of incentive, I think they're going to get the electricity in. So that's one thing. Also, there's an area just above the national park. It's 10,000 hectares. It's big, and it's not protected. And we need to protect that area. The trees are beautiful. We just discovered a new species of lemur there. And so I want to put some money into protecting that particular forest, making it a community park, probably. And so there's lots to do with that money, and I'm very excited to be able to fill in those gaps in my project.
Now, the Indianapolis Prize is essentially a Lifetime Achievement Award for all the work that you've done over the past decades. Where do you go from here? Once you've reached this peak, what lies beyond?
Well, there's certainly a lot of work to do, and so as far as actually winning prizes, we don't have a Nobel Prize for Conservation. I just won the Nobel Prize for Conservation, so that's spectacular. But influencing conservation is really what I would like to do, be a bigger influence in not only in Madagascar, but to also expand to something bigger.
And here we are again with Mowgli, the lemur. This is what Pat Wright has dedicated her life to, and Jared Miller has dedicated his life to telling people more about lemurs and explaining what they are and what they do. And why are these guys so endangered?
Well, look at it this way. A lemur, this is like looking back in time. Lemurs are one of the most ancient animals in the world, and believe it or not, they're a primate just like us. Lemurs are prosimian, very primitive, but what makes them so endangered is the fact that the island of Madagascar, being an island, it even makes a creature like this even more vulnerable, because that's the only place in the world that they live, and it's the only place in the world that they can exist in the wild. Now
if they go extinct, what happens? Why is that bad if we lose them?
Really, any animal going extinct, not only does it affect us in the fact of, you know, this wondrous animal just left the planet, but think of it this way. Every species of animal, whether it's a little tiny insect, all the way to a lemur, even a polar bear, all these animals are essential to the environment in one way or the other. So when one species goes extinct, it affects the rest of the environment.
So we don't just want to save these because they're cute. We save these because they're important.
Absolutely. They're very important. And Mowgli here, again, he's an ambassador species. For over 20 years, he's been teaching school-age children all the way up to adults about just the importance of wildlife conservation. And it's great having him here in Indianapolis, because right here in the heartland of America, this initiative in the Indianapolis Prize is conserving animals and helping them worldwide. So it's a perfect place for him to be, and especially here with Dr. Wright, who is, you know, the lemur's life advocate.
It's great having him on my shoulder, too. I feel like I've made a new friend tonight. Very gentle, very kind-hearted animal, it seems.
He is. You know, the lemurs naturally are very social creatures. They do have very complex societies just like us. And as we were discussing before, Mowgli doesn't think he's a human. He thinks we're other lemurs. So, I mean, it's really funny. So, and that's how his behavior is, like the purring and putting his tail up, the reason he was investigating your eyebrows. This is all things that he would do with other troop members. You just so happen to be in his troop today.
Well, it's great to be in his troop, and Jared, thank you so much. It's nice to meet you, too.
You, John.
You know, the work of conservation is done all over the world, and it doesn't really matter so much where you're from, but it matters where you're going. We have a story now about one of the Indianapolis Prize finalists who started his journey in the Bronx, New York.
We're in Mantadi National Park, one of the finest national parks in Madagascar, and we're looking in particular for some of the ground rollers. The ground rollers are an endemic family of birds found only in Madagascar. They're very shy, they're very difficult to find, and hopefully we'll get a look at them.
There's nothing like a typical day with Russ. You can't expect the unexpected.
It's very hard to follow Russ in the field. Because he's always after something. He always wants to see new things. And so you have to run after him. Very shy. Very quiet, very quiet. Oh, stop. Ooh, boy, they're fast. See him? You see him jumping around? Oh, sit still, baby. Sit still. Oh, nice. Ah, great shot.
Where'd it go? Where is it? Wow.
Ready? Here we are in the Virungas National Park, Kopanami River at Fungo Island, Congo portion of the Virunga volcanoes.
He's one of these kind of guys that makes you angry because he speaks Portuguese and Spanish and German and some Malagasy and French and an irritating amount of languages.
One day he could be meeting with heads of state and leave the meeting, change into his vest and his shorts and his hat, and literally be on a plane, on a boat, trekking through the jungle, discovering species or talking to indigenous people.
Russ's office and home were always littered with memorabilia and primitive weapons and things, and he's very interested in the culture of the native peoples everywhere. He's a collector, wants to preserve all sorts of traditions.
I actually tried to clean his office. Not even the whole office, just his desk. He was very, very upset. Then it just sort of reverted to its natural state, you know, like a forest does.
In a career spanning over 4 decades, Russell Mittermeier has been chasing his passion around the globe. Initially drawn to primates, Mittermeier was one of the first biologists to become concerned with the conservation of the species and sustainability of their environment. This led to studies of tamarins in Brazil and an assortment of species in Madagascar. He was the first scientist to discover an astounding 12 subspecies of frogs, monkeys, lemurs, and even a lizard.
All the chameleons here are found only in Madagascar and nowhere else. Last count, there were 78 species. So this is the global center of chameleon diversity.
Mittermeier focuses on the expansion of Dr. Norman Mayer's concept of working in biodiversity hotspots. These hotspots are home to the world's richest ecosystems, but also are the most threatened.
We have 35 of these hotspots. If you want to maintain the diversity of life on Earth, it's inevitable that you have to work in these hotspot areas. Madagascar really stands out. I really believe it's the world's #1 highest priority biodiversity hotspot.
Madagascar is mainly nature and people. And what we are trying to do here in Madagascar is to try to have these two main aspects live together. One of the people who really brought us this idea was Russ. His persistence, his eloquence, his stubbornness sometimes has really making sure that biodiversity remains at the forefront of the preoccupation of people here.
As president of Conservation International, an organization that has contributed to the protection of more than 260 million acres of land and sea, Mittermeier has influenced changes in policy that have protected countless species and land areas. But on any given day, you're more likely to find him on the road, doing what he loves the most.
As hard as in every country in the world, I don't think there's anybody else like that that really gets it and that's willing to just keep going and never stop.
Defeat is not part of my vocabulary. I love this stuff. I've always loved it. There's nothing like the experience of being out there and interacting with nature on a first-hand basis. You just have to be optimistic, and you just have to continue pushing.
This is a guy who's bigger than life in so many ways. The world is a vastly better place because Russ is out there. What an extraordinary person.
If you've been watching this program tonight, you may get the idea that conservation is something that happens far away from here, but that's not true. At the Indianapolis Zoo, there are a lot of conservation efforts going on beyond the Indianapolis Prize. It starts at the top. The zoo CEO, Mike Crowther, says that coming to the zoo should be more than just a fun way to spend a day. It's about gaining knowledge and the philosophy that knowledge is power. When you think about running the Indianapolis Zoo, are you running it for the people who come and visit, or are you running it for the animals that live here?
We're running it really for the animals in the wild that we want to have in the future. And our real goal is to empower people and communities to advance wild animal conservation. What that requires us to do is to engage people and enlighten them and empower them. And we do that by connecting them with the animal ambassadors that we have here. So we have to take extraordinary care of the animals that we have here, because otherwise people wouldn't trust us when it comes to taking care of populations in the wild.
So the idea being that in order to save something, you have to care about it first.
There was a famous Senegalese conservationist by the name of Balbio, and you probably heard his saying. He said, in the end, we will only save that which we love. We will only love that which we know. We will only know that which we are taught. So what we're trying to do is teach people so that they know, so that they fall in love, and so that they will then take action to save environments and wild animals for the future.
There are plenty of cities that are bigger than Indianapolis, plenty of zoos that are bigger than the one here. How did Indianapolis become so important in conservation?
I think it's because we made a decision to do that. You know, zoos have to be relevant to their era, or you shouldn't have zoos. Our relevance is that we will ensure the continuation of wild things and wild places. And we ensure that continuation by sustaining those wild places, by causing our audiences to fall in love, and then to take action on behalf of the animals that we have.
You know, the best conservationists are the ones who can inspire others by communicating what they know. Indianapolis Prize finalist Carl Safina is an excellent communicator. He's an award-winning author who happens to know more about the oceans and the animals that live there than just about anyone else in the world.
Carl has such a deep connection to nature, particularly the ocean and the things that live in it. He's got an incredible sensitivity to nature that's a marvel to see. But then, of course, he's got this incredible ability to convey what he sees and feels to the public.
He is a MacArthur Fellow and has been named one of the 100 notable conservationists of the 20th century by Audubon magazine. But as a kid from Brooklyn, Carl Safina's lifelong fascination with the natural world started on a much simpler scale.
When I was 7 years old, my father caved into all my pestering and got me a pair of homing pigeons. They had their little cubby holes, and we all lived in our cubby holes, and I just felt like life is life. That's just the way it is.
The way my husband presented things was what Carl learned, a quiet way, not shoving anything down anybody's throat, but just to open their eyes and their ears. And he said, you know, Dad, he said, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. My husband's answer was, just go with your heart. And look where it took him.
Earning a PhD in ecology from Rutgers, Safina spent the first part of his career studying seabirds. In the early 1990s, he was one of the first to bring the issues of overfishing our oceans to the public. He fought to ban high seas drift nets and helped to rewrite the U.S. federal fisheries law. which led to the 1996 Sustainable Fisheries Act, a landmark in saving fish population in our oceans.
I'm not against using what's in the ocean. What I fought against for a long time was the systematic overfishing that was just really wiping out many kinds of fish, and incidentally wiping out seabirds like albatrosses, sea turtles.
Carl's work has been invaluable in building current ocean conditions into long-term historical context. Well, the oceans that we have around us now and the species that live in them are just a pale shadow of what was there. When you look back 100 years or 150 years, it's ridiculous. And once people have a grasp on just how little is left, it gives some passion to be able to at least retain what we have.
In 2003, Safina co-founded the Blue Ocean Institute, now known as the Safina Center, an organization dedicated to inspiring ocean conservation through science, art, and literature. His award-winning books on the natural world teach conservation lessons through his unique knack for storytelling.
The animals that I use are fantastic traveling companions and guides because they're the ones that have to live it every day. They live in the ocean that we're affecting. What I try to do is make sure that the reader is really right there with me and feeling it along with me.
Carl is sort of a natural-born writer, and everything he does is lyrical. I can't think of anyone now who's writing, who's making a greater contribution in natural history.
He's close to unique in being able to basically write a biography of the species. The leatherback turtle, the bluefin tuna, the albatross, where you build your understanding and concern about the oceans through following this species around its path around the world.
He sings the sea. I think it's because he deeply loves nature and loves the ocean. In a way, I kind of see him as kind of picking up where Cousteau left off.
Safina's experience as a conservationist culminated in a new arena, television presenter, when he hosted the PBS series Saving the Ocean.
I'm Carl Safina. Please join me for the exciting first season of Saving the Ocean.
I like the way Carl looks at the world, and I like the intensity he brings to it. And I love the fact that Carl makes no apologies for engaging us emotionally in issues that definitely need us to care.
He's a simple guy. A lot of it has to do with humility. He doesn't push you. He puts you in a position to push yourself. He's a good teacher.
In a better world, I would just like to teach people about nature and biology and bring more people into seeing how completely unbelievable life is. But in the world we have, we also have to solve a lot of really huge problems, and we have to do that quickly.
I can't think of him as just a writer, as just a conservationist, as just a campaigner. He, in every pore and every neuron, is constantly focused on the wonders of the natural world and what he can do to help sustain them for future generations.
The number one goal of any conservationist is to save species, and Indianapolis Prize finalist Carl Jones has done that a number of times. He started his career by taking a species of bird that was about to go extinct, and now he's brought it back to a thriving population. To Carl, there is no such thing as a lost cause in nature.
We've got the 8 birds up there, probably keeping away because they're a bit suspicious of what's going on.
And they're all getting on well?
There's a sort of fighting for
some tension
who's the one in charge.
What we're trying to do here is to take these choughs, they're all been captive bred, and we want to reintroduce them back onto Jersey. We're bringing back a species that's been missing for over a century, but what's more important is it's actually helping to drive the restoration of Jersey's coastal habitats.
Born in Wales, Carl Jones knew from an early age he was hardwired to help animals thrive. An avid reader of pioneering conservationist Gerald Durrell, Jones learned the concepts that would one day make his career.
Jerry strongly believed that breeding in captivity and the protection that captivity afforded would be a great tool in the conservation of species. Now, breeding captivity is very complex, but Carl Jones was certainly one of the disciples who picked it up early on.
And here was a man who was an absolute genius. And he was saying, that a modern zoo and captive breeding can help save some really wonderful creatures that will otherwise go extinct. And I've read these books diligently and I thought, wow, someday I might be able to use all those techniques to help save endangered species.
While he was still a graduate student, the Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust hired Jones to run their Mauritius conservation project. At the time, the Mauritius kestrel, just down to a single breeding pair, was the rarest bird in the world. Where other naturalists saw a lost cause, Jones saw his life's work.
People pontificate and talk about doing conservation and don't go out there and do it. Saving species is not rocket science. Rebuilding ecosystems is relatively straightforward, but we've got to do it rather than talk about it.
Arriving on the East African island of Mauritius in the late 1970s, Jones set out to do something about the kestrel, but he found the ecosystem decimated by centuries of human encroachment. He established a wildlife sanctuary where he incubated the last few remaining kestrel eggs on the island. Meanwhile, he began the use of a substitute species, or analogs, to help recover the ecosystem on Mauritius and nearby Round Island.
If you see Big Daddy, he should be in here somewhere, shouldn't he? These tortoises were brought to Mauritius at the request of Charles Darwin, and we've released them into the wild, where they're now fulfilling the function of the extinct Mauritian giant tortoise.
The ecosystems on Mauritius and Round Island began to recover, and today Jones has since been credited with saving over a dozen bird and reptile species. The Mauritius kestrel is one of those species saved. Jones was able to share the achievement with his mentor not long before his death in 1995.
Carl said, come see some of my wild kestrels. This was just a defining moment in Gerald Durrell's life. Carl culled down some of these kestrels, and this incredibly rare bird that had been on the brink of extinction swooped down, took the mouse from Jerry's hand and flew off. You should have seen his face. It was just extraordinary.
I always realized that one day we would be successful. It never crossed my mind that we would fail.
Carl has a magic touch. The inspiration rubs off on people. People are moved by his enthusiasm, his energy.
He's achieved what most people would stand back and say is impossible.
Carl's kind of the embodiment of everything that we have been working on in this place for more than 50 years. Carl just believed in what Jerry believed, and what he has done is so deeply significant to the world of conservation. It's action. It's saying there are no such things as lost causes. We can fix this.
None of this work is short-term. To save a species takes decades. To save systems perhaps takes centuries. But you've got to start somewhere.
And as you've seen through all these profiles tonight, it takes the efforts of extraordinary people to help these animals survive. And I want to remind you once again that the 3D IMAX film Madagascar, Island of Lemurs takes us into Patricia Wright's world. It captures on video a number of species of lemurs, how they live and the struggles they face. And it also chronicles what Pat had to do to save the endangered lemurs in a changing world around them. That movie is playing right now at the IMAX Theater at the Indiana State Museum. And as we wrap up our special coverage of the 2014 Indianapolis Prize Gala tonight on Channel 13, I want to remind you that we will continue to stream it on WTHR.com. 2014 Indianapolis Prize winner Pat Wright will be honored in just a few minutes, and we will stream her speech and the rest of the gala live. All of the people honored here tonight have devoted their lives to saving animals and saving wild places. They are the clearest and strongest examples of conservation in our world. Thank you for being with us tonight. I'm John Stair from the JW Marriott Hotel. Good night.
The story of the Indianapolis Prize.
Okay, guys,